Oh, there we go. Twitch was freaking out. I'm sorry, everybody. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the stream. So happy to have you all. Hello, Alistair Nia. Hello, Mantis Warrior. Hello, AP Crew. How you doing tonight, Cross? I hope everybody is having a fantastic Wednesday and is ready to settle in for this the surprise subjects shift for our stream tonight. If you didn't see my messages on Discord or on Twitter, one of the players had a family emergency today, so because of that, we decided to cancel. No, I bounce between the 3D model and my 2D model, just kind of how I feel on a given day, basically. So that's the deal, Dark Elf. That's the deal. I still love my 3D model. I love my 3D model so very much. So yeah, because of that, we canceled Ashes of the Last War for the week, which I know everyone is very sad about. I'm very sad, obviously. I could switch to 3D Cydia right now. Like I have that power. But yeah, so in light of that, I had a little vote on Discord, and everybody wanted to do a D&D talk instead. So yeah, it's per subject matter. We're still talking D&D. We're still going to go through the D&D process, but we're not going to be doing a live session. So the plan for today is we are going to do a world building talk. So we're going to go through, there is a setting that I've been world building for a bit off and on, which I'm very excited about, but also, you know, creating a setting, especially one that introduces a lot of new mechanics to it, is a lot of work. And so I don't always have like maximum attention to dedicate to it. So it's been kind of an off and on process. So I'm gonna talk about that. I'm gonna talk about the lore of it, as well as the Obsidia like shared setting lore. And I'm gonna like try and explore some of the mechanics that I'm working on, and I'd be really interested to hear like some of the ideas that you guys might have on how to implement them in a cool and satisfying and somewhat balanced manner. So that's the plan for that. So I guess what it really comes down to is what is on the agenda for tonight. First of all, gender is a social construct. Secondly, we're going to be talking about dungeoneering and dragoning, so please feel free to discuss. We're going to start off on this screen because I don't need to go over to the other one yet because I don't have to type anything really, and I don't want to trigger like Obsidia typing ASMR this quickly because I type obnoxiously loudly, and there's really no way I have of censoring it for stream. So yeah, with that in mind, you know, if you guys have any like general D&D questions, just please feel free to let me know. I can AMA them while we talk about other stuff. If you have questions about my setting or anything that I'm working on, please feel free to let me know. I'm always happy to talk about myself and the things I'm passionate about. So those are like the primary things. Before we get started, I needed to, if you hadn't seen, once again, you hadn't seen my various Discord posts or Twitter posts about it, Obsidia busted out 2 high-quality, brand new, reflavored character races for D&D that you are encouraged to use with your DM's consent. Now, I know like these are pretty hot takes, but I think they're both very cool concepts that could basically give you a new and spicier way of being able to play some old reliable races. So, without further ado, number 1. Triton? However, you're not a mer person, you're an inkling from Splatoon. I know, crazy, isn't it? But it's like perfectly rational. Like, you know, Triton you're basically an aquatic person, so why settle for having your fishy bits be just fishman when you could be cute squid person? And they come with fucking Fog Cloud as one of their racial spells, which you could very easily reflavor to being a big spray of ink of whatever color you are inclined to do. If you want to go full Splatoon, you one-up that, and you also make it so you're an artillerist artificer who shoots, you know, deadly paint weapons. If you want to get even more immersive, but actually not be rules as written, you could just ask your DM to be a small-sized Triton, which technically is not an option in Mordekainen's, which doesn't really make sense. They made so many races you could be small or medium-sized versions, but not Triton. Triton, you have to be medium. Weird. But yeah, just ask to be small-sized. So you're basically goblin-sized little squid person, and I think that's just an adorable idea, and I kind of want to do it. So that's spicy race number 1. And you never done D&D, but you played Skyrim. Well, you know, hopefully you can still enjoy this and find some use out of the stuff I'm talking about. So race number 2 is play a turtle, you know, the big turtle people race, or I guess the big tortoise people race, except you're not a tortoise at all. You're actually an armadillo. And I think that'd be really cute, being a giant armadillo person. You would be so adorable. And turtle works because you've got your armored carapace shell thing already represented. Somebody pointed out like the hold breath could probably be traded out, but you know, it's whatever. Like, I don't feel like that's really a make or break the aesthetics of the race idea. But yeah, be an armadillo turtle, and I think that would be very cute. So those are your 2 cute reflavorings of existing races in new and spicy ways. I hope you enjoy them, and please let me know if you end up actually playing one of those. Hey, Rosalia. It's not really a class on DM stuff right now. I do have streams. If you go to my YouTube, I do have VODs where I do, like, DM classes for some concepts that I think are kind of neat. So definitely go check those out. But I'm mostly talking about world building for a setting I'm working on. And gonna be asking for, like, people's thoughts and ideas for mechanics for it and everything. But I wanted to start off by telling about super cool racial ideas that people should try out. Insta-subscribed. Yeah, if anybody's curious about my streams, go to my YouTube. I have literally every VOD from every stream I've done since February 1st, 2021. Yeah, turtle is rarely used in most groups I've played with. But I think an armadillo as a turtle would be super cute. I like armadillos. I think they're adorable, even if they have leprosy. But I think they're adorable. So yeah, I do a couple streams. Probably my biggest one is talking about how to set up a campaign in a satisfying way. I think that was probably my best input. Also talking about using a war as like a background to a setting rather than actually the focus of the campaign. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Why does a turtle only live 50 years? Like, there's fucking tortoises out there that are hundreds of years old. Like, there's one tortoise who was like 150 who like repopulated his entire like species. What a big dick bandit, that's for damn certain. So, yes, those are the 2 starter races. So here's like the context for why I come up with really neat starter races. I mean, not starter races, reflavored races. And it's a lot to do with, I'm really bad at game balance for homebrew. So I just don't homebrew things generally, but I try to find ways to reflavor existing things to make it so I don't have to balance something properly. So those are your spicy takes. I also do that a lot with classes and stuff. Memes, the DNA of the soul. So, thank you, Dark Elf. Thank you. But, yeah, like, I have my... What was it? I had my... Like, in Ashes of the Last War, which is the D&D campaign that I stream, like, there is a Battlesmith Artificer, and so, like, because I literally apparently only build one type of Battlesmith Artificer, which is heavy repeating crossbow, I decided to restylize her, where her heavy repeating crossbow is actually represented by basically railgun gauntlets. So she's got these giant magic gauntlets that basically magically electromagnetically propel like steel bolts. So she basically throws through magnetism steel bolts at people, and that's how I represent being a repeating heavy crossbow. Because it's, you know, I already had a character with a giant repeating heavy crossbow who was also a battlesmith, and I was like, I can't just do that again. I gotta restyle this. But yeah, so that's like the stuff. I'm all about aesthetics. I live for aesthetics and reflavoring things. Literally, if you're playing in a setting where you're an artificer, if you're playing in a setting where you're an artificer and there are no firearms, because firearms are way more powerful, but if there are no firearms, there is no reason your character should not be using a repeating heavy crossbow. Like, the only time you're an artificer who shouldn't be using a repeating heavy crossbow is if you're an armorer artificer, because their innate weapons are just so, like, mechanically tied to their class, and they're actually pretty damn good. A certain crossbow-themed railgun. A certain scientifically crossbow-themed railgun. But yeah, so that's my note on reflavoring things. I gotta, you know, if you ever want to know anything about reflavoring stuff, let me know. I did my talk about how I play a half Oni girl, which is literally, she's a bugbear racial stats, but I just have her as a half Oni because I wanted to be a half Oni, and there is no half Oni race. So what we're going to be talking about here tonight is my homebrew setting that I've been working on, called, it's a working title to be clear, but it is called Nevermore, Echoes of Creation. Sorry, I've got to like constantly hydrate because I'm talking so much. Yeah, if you ever have any D&D questions, hit me up. Like, I will rant at length about D&D. Yuko makes fun of me for it, because I'm just very passionate. So that's the working title, and here is the, you know, the elevator pitch premise of the setting. And the setting is basically D&D Fate at the end of the universe. That is the premise pitch of the setting. And so, what does that mean? Well, I will have to explain some concepts from the Obsidiaverse, the Obsidia cinematic universe. So, I have like some universal concepts I do in a lot of homebrew settings, because I have, or just campaigns in general, because I also do a bunch of this in my Eberron campaign that I run. But I basically have certain like rules and ways that supernatural entities work and how death works, etc., that carry over into a lot of settings I run, because I think they're such great ideas that I'm going to use them all the fucking time. So yes, the Obsidiaverse, TM. So I'm going to have to explain some of the concepts of them, because those concepts, which I created for another setting, are basically what are the fundamental, the fundamental bases for this setting's existence. So we're going to start off talking about the Fae. You know how I love the Fae in this channel. I rant. Also, I think I'm going to turn on some Last Seahorse in the background as BGM. Let me know if it's too loud or if it's too distracting, because I don't feel like you just want to listen to me speak exclusively for the next several hours. I'm gonna turn that down a bit. So yeah, let me know if that's too loud or too quiet. I just wanted something on in the background. With that, we've got the Fae are very fundamental bases for which I describe basically every setting. And in my previous setting that I did some streams about, which I still would like to do a campaign in, I just, I've got a short attention span. I have a short attention span, so I will always come up with new settings when left to my own devices. Days without Fae tricks, 0. Yep. So, oh, hello, Michael. Welcome, welcome. It is Goth Mommy Gamer Girl, OMG. The notorious OMG. So, I expanded upon the Fae quartz that are kind of canon in D&D. I expanded upon them, and I added in a bunch of concepts from other fantasy settings, as well as books and stuff I read. So there is a hefty dose of Dresden Files kind of rules for how my Fae work. So there are 5 quarts of the Fae that I generally do, but only 4 of them are basically universal. The 5th one is unique to a particular 1920s Arcanopunk setting that I wrote. So you've got the 4 core quarts of the Fae. You've got the Summer Court, you've got the Winter Court, you have the Wild Hunt, and then you've got the Raven Queen. They're all different Fae courts that have various universal rules that apply to them. And each Fae court in turn is led by a king or queen, i.e. Titania for summer, Mab for winter, Oberon for the Wild Hunt, and the Raven Queen, or Morgana for the Raven Queen / Shadowfell. And then underneath them are their Fae Knights. Each Knight is basically a Fae entity that exists as an Archfey in its own right, but they are ultimately subordinate to their given ruler, and those are the Red Cap for the Summer Court, the Banshee for the Winter Court, the Houndmaster for the Wild Hunt, and then Kate Sith, the Prince of Cats for the Shadowfell. Now, hello Apple Brandy, welcome, welcome. Now, we're going to come to the fundamental thing that you need to know about all that I just said about Fae bullshit, which is also relevant to the afterlife in my settings. So, particularly in one of the homebrew settings I was working on, Nexus, which is my 1920s, 30s Arcanopunk setting, is when somebody dies, the Raven Queen acts as basically the Raven Queen acts as basically the kind of Charon / Valkyrie, what's it called? Transporter of the soul. So there's in-lore reasons for why that's the case in my other setting, but the core thing that you need to get from that is that when somebody dies, their soul passes through the Shadowfell in some way, shape, or form. And as a result of that, because the Raven Queen at her core is a crow, and is obsessed with the collection of just stuff, period. She needs, and she has an innate compulsion to hoard all manners of things and store them in her tower of memory in the Shadowfell itself. And so when souls pass through the Shadowfell, she takes the tiniest fraction of their soul essence and keeps it forever. She needs some milk. Also, hello, Scarth. Welcome, welcome. So she keeps that and stores it for basically just to have it / for future use. And so, why is this relevant? This is relevant because this basically this shard of a given person's soul contains the tiniest aspect of their life and personality. And when something of particular issue arises that concerns the Raven Queen, and her particular agendas and plots for the future, she may deem it necessary to entrust one of her servants with something called an echo. And an echo is a premise that I created where it's basically fate. This is where we get to the fate part of the setting. It's basically fate. So the Tower of Memory basically serves as the throne of heroes, and an echo represents a heroic servant, basically, or heroic spirit. Hello, Nasragon. Welcome, welcome. And so the echo is the fraction of somebody's soul which will be entrusted to a mortal follower to basically assist them in the pursuit of the Raven Queen's agenda. Now, generally, if somebody's going to be an echo that's given to someone, it's going to be somebody who was probably a pretty big deal person in their life. So a great hero, a great villain, somebody with a great legend, etc. Hey, Kami, welcome, welcome. Take a fragment of Michael V. And so the echo, it latches on to the resonance generated by a given mortal person and basically proves to be their heroic servant, except it's not like a physical entity that's created that attacks things. It's a kind of spiritual weapon that becomes attached to that given person and lends part of its powers and part of its legend to meld itself with that given person's particular capabilities to assist them in their endeavors. And generally it can also act as, it's a companion and somebody to talk to, and somebody to potentially learn from about the lessons kind of taken from their life. So that's what an echo is. And now that I've said that, you now have an idea about what I meant by the title of Echoes of Creation. So those are a couple of the core Obsidiaverse concepts that you need to understand so that you can understand how my setting is designed. So if you have any questions about that, please feel free to let me know. I'm gonna hydrate. Okay. So, she said the thing. That's the name of the setting. So now we come to the setting itself. And part of my design philosophy for this setting was I wanted to kick this up to 11. I wanted, there is no half-assing this setting. It is all 100% bootyful. So I said, hey man, Fate of the World stuff, yeah, that's pretty adventurer par for the course. Let's kick that up a notch. We're gonna do Fate of the Universe stuff. So it's designed inherently to be a planeswalker, planescape kind of setting. And the overall idea is the universe is ending. Yep, I hate to tell you this, but the universe is ending. And the good news is, this might not be the end of the universe. So nobody particularly knows why the universe is ending, but it is an unequivocal fact that it is. And so, with the universe ending, the gods have also ceased to be. I can understand that would be pretty problematic. So the gods are gone, and the universe is ending, and planes are basically fading into the void of oblivion. And so this has caused widespread planar chaos across the universe. because people don't know why everything is ending, but it very unequivocally is. And a lot of people are kind of powerless about what to do about that. So now we come to why I decided to talk about the Raven Queen and the concept of echoes. So while the universe is tired of some bullshit. So while the universe is ending, thankfully it is not entirely hopeless. Because our plucky Raven Queen reaches out to a group of 4 potential heroes. And because this is so high stakes, this campaign's going to be starting at level 10. And reaches out to a core group of mortal heroes who are contacted because, 1, they have the actual capability to do something about the universe ending, but B, they actually have the most important thing, which is that they have the hope that the universe can be saved. Clerics can exist. Clerics can exist because at the end of the day, clerics derive their power from their belief. But, they can always be just, siphoned off of whatever energy source of the planes. Like, basically, a divine power vampire. They're just, suck it off, the remnants of their god's design to power their spells. Or you could just be a cleric of one of the, planar entities, and then it's easy peasy before that plane ends. And so they get contact because they have hope for the future. So because of that, the Raven Queen basically hits them up and says, hey, so funny story, mortals, the universe is ending. The universe is ending, and unfortunately there's nothing we can do about the universe ending. I know, it kinda sucks, bro. However, there's a Hail Mary we can do for a second chance. And so she basically pitches that at the core of every plane of existence is a word of creation. There is a word that was uttered at the very beginning of the universe, which created the very planar identity of that plane. And that energy trickles down to the prime material, represented by all manners of concepts, magics, and supernatural entities and stuff. And so she explains that mortals are the only people in the universe that are capable of actually possessing the words of creation. Because since mortals are not defined by a word of creation like everyone in the planes is, they can actually possess them and use them. So that concept of various planar entities being tied to, very fundamentally, the nature of their plane is what inherently traps them in their inability to interfere. But mortals can be welcome, cat's paws in actually trying to see a change of pace on this. So she basically recruits the party with the offer of, hey, I am going to give you the ability to travel the planes and collect the words of creation so that when the end comes, you can get to the Forge of Souls at the center of the universe and remake reality. So the universe will end and there's nothing you can do about it, but you can remake the universe in your image using the words of creation you've collected. And so what's in it for the Raven Queen? So what's in it for the Raven Queen is that her word, the word of creation that she possesses, is memory. And so in exchange for helping them, when the universe is remade, at the very end, she will provide her word of creation to the heroes, and they will use the concept of memory to reintroduce that into the universe that they make, which will allow her to actually continue to exist in her current form with her current memories when the universe is remade. So that's her big Hail Mary on this, is that when this is all said and done, she will survive. And so she gives the various heroes the ability to possess an echo. And so they can gain their heroic servant, basically, to join up with their soul to assist them and help guide them in their travels across the universe. So that's kind of the overall idea of it. One of the kind of themes of the setting is that the universe is ending, and that end is permanent. So planes disappear, and when the heroes collect a given word of creation from a plane, the plane also ceases to exist. And so the heroes have to kind of struggle / deal with the fact of they're going to go across the universe meeting various people with various hopes and dreams and lives and goals across these different planes. And when they finally harness that word of creation, like, those people are gone forever. And the only hope of them ever returning in any way, shape, or form is the heroes succeeding at the very end. So that's one of the themes, is just the kind of slow fade into oblivion of everything else in the universe that they encounter. And so I feel like that could be really good grounds for exploring some real existential issues for these mortals as they travel across the universe, because it is so alien to what everyone has basically been led to believe about, what life is. There's always life goes on, but in this case, it doesn't. And you are being entrusted with the hopes, dreams, and existence of entire civilizations that will never exist again if you fail in your quest. Or if when you reforge the universe, you don't choose to bring them back. And I feel like that could be a really interesting concept to grapple with. Now, to be clear, the campaign is premised on the heroes being heroes. They are good guys, and that's why this stuff actually has, like, real stakes, because they have that kind of empathy. They have that caring that makes them even get involved in this and not just, basically throw down and give up. It's grimdark, but it's also grimdark with the brightest hope at the end, because they are given the power at the very end of this to remake the universe in their image and bring back however many of those civilizations as they desire. So if they succeed in their quest, it isn't hopeless. There is a light at the end. Yeah, it's kind of a noble dark, I guess. There is a light at the end of the rainbow. So that's part of the concept for it. And so as they embark on this journey, it's also about exploring. And one kid would be like, no. To be clear, I don't run my settings for, like, commercial use. Like, I run them for my friends. So when I design things, I design it assuming my friends will buy into the concept and play by the rules that make it, like, worthwhile. So, which is also one of the things that the heroes are going to have to kind of struggle with at the end of the universe, because they can collect words of creation from what are probably pretty objectively bad places that maybe embody, negative concepts, but those concepts might still be necessary to forge the kind of reality that has meaning, that has merit. Like, if things are good all the time, then, things are not actually good at all. And so they might have to deal with like, okay, we have the concept of, you know, what is like peace and joy and stuff, but, you know, we also have the concept of war or loss or something along those lines. Oh, hello, Pyro Saber. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for the raid. How are you doing tonight? We're just talking about world building. How was your stream? For those of you who don't know, my name is Obsidia. I'm everybody's favorite Death Knight. I'm a variety streamer. I do a lot of D&D talks as well, which is what we're doing today, since we couldn't do our actual normal D&D campaign day. So, what is that floating behind my head? It is a bone halo made of the spines of my enemies, and those I've hugged a little too tightly. Welcome, welcome. But yeah, so it's the decision of whether they want to bring that stuff back or not. Yeah, basically, Wandering Worm. What meaning is there to honesty, truth, and beauty without contrast to give them shape, to give them depth? So that'll be something they'll have to struggle with when they remake the world. So we're going to talk about the mechanics of what involves the words of creation and stuff, because it's a very, similar for the spooky season, relatable. When I was young and able to do things like that, that is 100% relatable. Player consequences. Oof. Oof. What's the antagonistic forces on all this? Yeah. So, I was just about to get to that, Alistair, yeah? So, the antagonistic forces for it, I haven't totally outlined yet. My idea for how I wanted the campaign to be was basically a flowchart. Just checking Ted, you take your ibuprofens, yeah. Being old. So I was imagining it being a flowchart where there would be probably 3 like rival groups, basically trying to collect the words of creation. And so depending on how long players want the campaign to be, will be how many planes of existence get made. And so the idea of a flowchart is basically each time the heroes have a chance to go to a new plane, they'll be given 3 example planes that they can go to. And it's like Pokemon, where if you choose to go to one plane, the other rival groups are going to the other 2. So you lose that opportunity cost of those specific words of creation tied to those planes. And then at the end of the campaign, basically all 3 rival groups will square up at the Forge of Souls for a potential battle royale to remake the universe and collect the remaining words of creation they may have missed out on by being taken by other people. So that's kind of the idea behind it. So one example for a rival group was basically the Mortal Nihilists, a group that is dedicated to ensuring the universe ends for one reason or another. One potential idea is that they want the universe to end because, you know, the universe had a good run and it's time for it to end. And this is clearly a sign that it was meant to end, so why are we here to interfere with that? Option 2 is they could believe that the universe has to end in its complete nature so that it can be reborn, rather than being crafted by mortal hands for the next run. And then a third potential group is always, I could make them tied to some other supernatural entity trying to avoid its own annihilation through some way, shape, or form. So that's one of those things I still need to develop, and I would also probably work on with the players that end up playing in it. Yeah, basically Power Saver. Try and get the universe to reach its nirvana state and exit the cycle of life. Yep. So that's one example. And then in the individual planes they go to, there are antagonistic forces that can be available there just by existing in the planes. Like, you know, in order to get the Word of Creation, for example, at a given plane, you might have to fight. You might have to fight that plane, some like guardian of that plane or representation of that plane to retrieve it. Or there might be like there's all kinds of apocalyptic issues that can arise as the universe is ending, where tyranny might sorry, I'm having hiccups. Tyranny might exist on a plane that has arisen as a hope for trying to safeguard it from its own end. Or it might be anarchy, for instance. So those are some ideas about antagonistic forces on given planes. All right, hey Litro, thank you for the lurk. Always happy to have you here. So noted, Michael. So noted. But yeah, so those are some examples. Now, a lot of the setting ideas that I had were kind of designed around the idea of the world. The world is very small to people who literally see it fade before their eyes, and so it really requires the players to be very heavily invested in role-playing with each other, as well as role-playing their experiences of things ending and the planes they meet and those kind of memories, which is also part of the reason why the echoes exist, is to provide external people that the players can talk to that will always be with them no matter how deep into the center of the universe they go before things end. So with that, it's gonna be a lot of time of people talking to each other and talking to their echoes, and so I feel like the exploration of that could be really interesting too. So, tell us more. So I want to briefly talk about echoes and some of my ideas for echoes. So, echoes are what I think is probably the coolest thing to explore, because I love Fate. There's one thing you need to know about Obsidian: I love Fate. And so I think the concept of heroic spirits is super cool. It's just really hard to figure out a way to properly represent that in D&D without just having, a god traveling around with you. So I divided the echoes into several, basically class categories, kind of like saber, archer, etc. And then an example of an echo could potentially be, and for also interacting with an echo, as the lessons you should learn, take Strahd from Curse of Strahd. So Strahd could be an echo after he is defeated in that campaign. So you would be meeting, you'd basically have attached to you the spirit of Strahd, but it's not like Strahd as, the man he was in Barovia. It is Strahd, the man he was after failing in Barovia. Having seen, in retrospect, the life he lived, after seeing the life he lived and where his ambitions and his desires ultimately became absolutely unhinged, and seeing how that cost him everything. And I feel like that could be a really cool point of introspection and kind of a lesson for discussion between Strahd and his given character that he's assigned to. So that's an example of an echo's personality and how it would be reflected. And hello, Luna. We're talking about Fate as in Fate Grand Order, basically. So that's what I meant, Rosalina, is that we're talking about Fate as in the franchise, not as in the concept of the fate of the universe. So... Hey, Thadric. Welcome, welcome. Is he be reincarnated as a young lady? He'd just be reincarnated as... Yeah, well, he's not really reincarnated. It's literally a fragment of his spirit interacting with the character. Hey, Thomas the Tactician. Welcome, welcome. So yeah, these are like examples. The fundamental idea is I want each player to design a echo. There's a couple ways I've toyed around with representing it, which is one is that a player makes an echo for another player and they work as a team to flesh out that echo. And then another example is the player makes their own echo, but in consultation with me. And I generally want most echoes to be different than their core player. Different than their core character. So, for example, if you are a big lawful good paladin, for example, I'd want your echo to be somebody who might be like, you know, chaotic neutral, might be chaotic good, might be even an evil villain who was like a sorcerer or a rogue or something, to create a very different persona rather than simply emphasizing what you already do well. So that's part of the idea on it. I want it to be somebody that makes you stronger by giving you diversity rather than just emphasizing what you already do well. Oh, NJ Chef, thank you for the raid. Welcome, welcome. I'm unhingedly talking about faith, basically. High voltage. Welcome, welcome, Raiders. For those of you who don't know, my name is Obsidia. I'm everybody's favorite Death Knight. What is that floating behind my head? It is a bone halo made of the spines of my enemies and those I've hugged a little too tightly. Welcome, welcome. So that's part of what it would go into it. And so one of the things that we're going to be talking about here today, when we get to the mechanics portion, is how to appropriately represent that as like an actual mechanical like system for the character that gives them diversity, gives them uniqueness, but also gives them a sense of growing as they do. Oh, thank you for the resub, NJ Chef. Fucking 20 months going. You love it. You love to see it. Yeah, I'm glad there's somebody else who gets Electric Six here. I listened to Electric Six's first album when I was in high school. Danger, danger. High voltage. When we touch, when we kiss. So the current placeholder name, so I have something refer to the hero besides just the hero, who is assigned an echo, is a Nevermore, which is also why I was toying with calling the campaign Nevermore, Echoes of Creation. And it fits with the whole Raven Queen aesthetic choice. And so I divided the concept of echoes into 5 different categories, which are, for lack of a better word, classes. Yes, fire the disco, fire the Taco Bell. Thank you, Birdborn. Thank you. So the 5 categories are kind of just like archetypes to represent different character classes and stuff that could be used as a creative enterprise to develop for your particular echo. Ideally, I would want each member of the party I want each member of the party to have a different category of echo. So the 5 categories are the champion, which represents like fighters, barbarians, and monks. The Hierophant, which represents clerics, paladins, druids, and rangers. The Magister, which represents wizards, sorcerers, and warlocks. And the Adept, which represents rogues, bards, and artificers. And then the final being the Beast, which represents creatures, all the creatures of the universe, basically, with intelligence who fall outside of the other categories. So, for example, Strahd would probably be treated as a Beast category person rather than a Magister or Champion. a dragon would be treated as a beast category person rather than a champion or like a magister. I might change the name from beast to worm, like WYRM, to be more representative of cosmic animals kind of thing. But that's the core concept, is those 5 categories are what you use as the rough framework for designing your particular echo. And so what makes a given echo become bonded to a person is kind of unknown. Each person has an aspect of resonance about them, that there's something about their soul, something about their way of thinking, something about their very core values, which in some way called out to this individual echo to become assigned to it out of all the other echoes that could have existed in the world. Of course you are, Worm. And so this can lead to strange situations where a given Nevermore becomes bound to an echo of differing philosophy. The wild also works. I do like the idea of the wild too. I could be extra fantasy and spell it with a Y. Oh man. I'm such a slut for adding Y's instead of I's into words to make them more fantasy-like. That shit gets me hard. So bound to an echo of differing philosophy, history, attitude, or agenda. But, you know, the cosmic forces that bind the dead to the living know there's a reason behind the bond. So at its core, the Nevermore doesn't have to like their echo, but their echo will always be there for them. And perhaps the most important thing, an echo can teach a hero simply to not be like themselves. So that's kind of the idea, is the echo always has the hero's best interests in mind throughout this journey, even if the echo is like, comes from Obsidian X. Yes! No, it's, sorry, it would be X Obsid X. There we go. The echo would be always supporting them, even if they're a very evil person in their lifetime. In death and in their bond, they yeah, the swimsuit or Santa version of an echo. Maybe if this becomes a cinematic universe. So yeah, so that's part of it. And so how does this affect the hero? So the given Nevermore has the ability now to talk to this potentially ancient being who lived a great or nefarious life. And by becoming bound to the echo, they're going to gain abilities unique to themselves that will potentially develop as the campaign goes on. So one of the fundamental principles that I'm working on with this campaign is that there is no real economy, so to speak. Gold is basically meaningless at this point because you're traveling the universe and the universe is ending. So you may think, how then, Obsidia, you dumb slut, is my character going to get cool shit and get better as they adventure? Do I just loot magic items? Nay, nay, nay. I am literally taking out all of the loot monkey things you would otherwise have to worry about in a campaign. Because you get to build your own build, basically. So the two things that will determine how your character develops throughout the campaign are words of creation and your echo. So while we're talking about the echo part of this, I will explain that aspect before I go explaining the words of creation aspect of it. So your echo will give you the ability that it will bleed into the nature of your Nevermore, providing aspects of its legend to your very own abilities. The most obvious way this will manifest is through soul-born items. So a soul-born item is a piece of equipment that is of importance to the Nevermore that begins to blend their own soul resonance with that of the legend of the Echo. So it creates an item that transcends conventional logic and arcana. And as the bond between an Echo and their Nevermore grows deeper, the power expands to more items until they've built up a raiment of their own identity and legend. So, I haven't determined how many items you will get that are soulborn to you, but the idea is you have so many items that you can basically set up as soulborn items, like a sword or a suit of armor, for instance, or like a wand or a staff. And when you do that, your item will now become eligible for words of creation to enhance it, and will become uniquely tailored to your particular character. I don't know what Soul Weapon from Psionics is. I don't know what you're talking about, Luna, but... And then this can also be represented through your soulborn items can also, in addition to having soulborn items, you also can harness the power of legend, which is, by attuning yourself to an Echo, this allows the legend of the Echo to become physical in a very literal way involving your character. In times of need, the Nevermore can be able to manifest, the Echo can be able to manifest with its Nevermore using the nature of its legend to enhance the capabilities, the spells, the attacks, the whatever of the Nevermore themselves. So these are like the two parallel power setups for your character. One is enhancing your soulborn equipment through words of creation, and two is basically deepening your tie to your Echo to be able to use its legend to enhance your character's abilities. So the idea behind this is I wanted to create something that people could make very personal and very customizable to their given character. So they don't feel necessarily as trapped by class subclass as you would in a normal game, because I am opening up an incredible amount of communication between the player and myself about how they want their character to essentially go through their power curve, how they want their items' abilities to represent, like that kind of stuff. Very high emphasis on aesthetics, because I want every character involved in here to walk away from this feeling like they are a legend. They are a legendary character in their own right, which would be spoken of in myth and history in any other setting. And in addition to that, I want them to feel very much like this is the end. And so they're given that kind of power creep, that kind of power fantasy that would otherwise be unavailable if I had to worry about balancing out the universe existing afterwards. So like I want people to make their characters also be pushed up to 11. I want them to channel their inner Guilty Gear vibes, like with attacks and weapons and equipment. I want them to channel their inner fucking like Fate Servant for how they want their individual histories and legends to be represented in their very existence and attacks. So that's kind of the methodology I have behind Echoes. And I feel like I made Echoes for a different campaign where the Raven Queen is like, there's a whole big cosmological explanation for her that if you ever want to watch my VODs where I talk about world building Nexus, you can definitely go do that on my YouTube channel. Also, hello Turkey Fluffs! Thank you for the resub, 16 months running. You'll love to see it. Thank you, Turkey. Gobble gobble. And so, yeah, so that's Echoes. We'll talk about later how to represent that, to like kind of story build how to do that mechanically. But that's like that's the lore premise behind it and what is my overall intent as a campaign designer to do it. You want them to be buff, thick, sexy armored Astolfos? Yes, always. That should be every character's goal. I'm glad you're into it, Luna. Okay. So now that we've explained what it means to be an Echo what is the Echo's relationship to their Nevermore, I think we can now diverge to talking about the words of creation. So, for those of you who don't know, the words of creation are the fundamental fabric of the universe, the very core of each plane's existence and nature. Ultimately, they are so intrinsic to each planar entity's identity, it is impossible for planar denizens to use or attain another plane's word. This leads to the interesting situation where the only entities that can utilize or collect the words of creation being those that are not defined by them, i.e. mortals, and theoretically whatever beings existed at the dawn of creation to bring them into being. Which brings us to why our plucky group of heroes are even recruited in the first place. Ultimately, the Nevermore's journey across the planes, they will seek to unlock the words of creation for each plane and collect it. The word is ultimately seared into a person's consciousness and empowers them with its nature, thus requiring that at the end of the campaign at the Forge of Souls, each person must join into the song of creation with the words they have collected. But that's not all, because the words are also the basic building block of the Nevermore's power advancement. So, the idea is... I'll finish this thought and then I'll call Rosalia good bonk and shrimp. So the idea is, as you are traveling across these planes and harnessing the words of creation, at each plane, when they've overcome whatever task will require them to collect the word, the players will figure out amongst themselves who is going to harness the word of creation from that plane. And then that person gets to keep that word. And they can then use that word in their soulboard equipment as something to enhance it and give it some sort of powers, tied to what is the nature of that word. What that entails, I'm not entirely sure on yet. That's the mechanic part that I have to figure out, which we will be talking about. But it's the overall idea that you're collecting these words of creation and your character is using them to basically create their gear and what their gear does. And because I thought that would be super cool. And I'm willing to give it like a pretty wide breadth of interpretation for what is a given word and how that could be represented through, you know, the equipment or abilities that you use it for on that given character, or for that given like piece of equipment. So those are the two things. So you're going to be, as you get to the end of the campaign, the heroes are collecting their words, they're using the words to get more powerful, to define their equipment, and then at the end, they'll use all of their words to remake the universe with them. So that is the long and short of Echoes and of Words of Creation. Please let me know if you have any questions about that before we move on to the next thing, which is talking about how the heckerdoodle am I going to be able to represent any of this stuff in a mechanical way. But before we do that, I'm going to have some water, and then I'm going to do a redeem. Okay. For Rosalia. Oh, Rosalia, I just want you to know that I'm just saying what we've all been thinking. And that's that you, yes you are a good bonking shrimp. Oh, yes you are. There you go, Rosalia. I hope you enjoyed that. Okay, so that's kind of my setup for it. What our goal here tonight to do is to kind of brainstorm ideas for how abilities would work. Because at the end of the day, I can't just define all the abilities here, because those are going to be based on individual characters and how they design things. What's save Mike here for me? Okay, so I think probably the best place to start with would be echoes, because echoes are a bit more straightforward than, sorry, I've been talking for an hour straight. So echoes are a bit more straightforward than the words of creation, which are very broad. So what do people think? So we've got our five categories of echo. How do you think we could represent some of the abilities that an echo can provide, as well as, you know, if you think it might be helpful, I could just pick a person, like pick a famous D&D character basically, and you could use that to help figure out like what would be a power set for that person that they could provide somebody. So the ultimate idea is I want these to be enhancements to a character, not just like all the character's abilities themselves. Like I don't want it to just be, for example, you're a fighter, you pick a Magister as your echo, you get the ability to cast Fireball. Like, I don't feel like that's very cool, interesting, or unique. So, but I think having a Magister who can, like, give your fighter, I don't know, like, basically have them project, like, a fire, like, reach weapon out of your sword or something. I feel like that would be cooler if they were, say, like a Flame Magister. One of the things that Lily brought up for this was like making it so, for example, if you're playing like a wizard and your echo is like a Hierophant, they could make it so that like your fireball doesn't hurt other players, for instance. Or make like one spell a day do max damage of your choice, and you can flavor it accordingly. Or like Action Surge can give you an additional attack themed off of the Echo's weapon. Or, you know, you can make it so that your attack effects in like a cone, for instance, as opposed to just a straight shot of normal. Like if your arrow is hitting somebody, you Gilgamesh a Treasury of Babylon and just summon more weapons that will hit everybody in a cone in front of you, for example. So those are some ideas that were tossed out, and Edward Teach, you'd have expertise with navigation, vehicle handling, and social skills or something. Yeah, I guess if you wanted Blackbeard as your Echo, those are, I would say, probably core aspects of the Echo that could be represented through some synergy with your abilities. So, like, we could make it so, like, you go straight, like, Rider from Fate, and so you have Blackbeard as your Echo here. Blackbeard is your Echo, so he's really good at, like, having a ship. So maybe, like, once a day, you can manifest the Queen Anne's Revenge and, like, basically spectrally, you know, like, charge through a group of enemies without provoking attacks of opportunity and, like, moving farther, for example. That could be a way that you represent an Echo's legend, an Echo's nature, but through your own capabilities. Or for example, 40 cannons, baby! Yeah, for example, you know, you've got Blackbeard as your Echo. For maybe as an attack, your Ranger fucking does a cannon barrage with their bow, as opposed to, you know, just shooting an arrow at somebody, like, once a day. Michael, there's a reason why I don't do exploration as a mechanic in any of my D&D games. It's because I can't navigate for shit. I get lost in everything. I get lost in real life. I am just perpetually lost. So those are kind of the ideas that I was thinking for, like, what are some of my ideas for echoes mechanically. I'd be really curious if people have different thoughts about, like, I want, like, each time you invoke an echo to be, like, a big deal thing you do in a day. So, Lost Walks. Checks out. Yeah, I feel like it would be like a once a day thing for each given echo power. And I don't know, like, how many echo powers you would get. I don't know how to scale that. So I'm not, like, totally positive about how to project that and scale it. But, like, I'd like to think maybe like once per power. I don't think there would be passives necessarily, because, like, a passive is probably better represented by your words of creation. Yeah, it's not so Noble Phantasm. I feel like, yeah, your words of creation would probably be better ways to do your passives than your echo. Your echo, I feel like, is more of directly channeling them to do stuff. So I think, like, the problem is I don't really know if I want to do this like a 10 to 20 campaign. Like, it's very high power campaign, obviously, but I don't know if, like, I as a person want to take things all the way to level 20. So maybe once every, like, 4 levels you gain an echo power. That might be a way to do it. So you start off with basically 2 echo powers, and then at 12 you get so 1 at 4, 1 at 8, 1 at 12, 1 at 16, or 1 at 1, 1 at 4, 1 at 8, 1 at 12. So potentially doing it that way. So you gain several echo powers, but it's not like you're spamming them for, like, every attack in a fight. Because if you choose to use all of them in one fight, because at the end of the day, I generally only do, like, 1 fight per adventure, because I don't particularly enjoy combat as a DM, so I'd rather do, like, just 1 super epic combat per adventure. So likely they'll be doing this, like, every round they have an opportunity to. So I feel like having 3 to 4 to 5 of them over the course of the campaign is probably enough to make it so that, you know, you're doing them. You're probably going to launch through all of them in a given fight, but you won't necessarily like, spam them per se. But I feel like maybe once every 4 levels could be cool. What do y'all think about once every 4 levels? Because I feel like once every 5 would be too few. I think once every 4, since it's also when you get, like, ability score bonuses, that might be a good time for it. So foreseeably, you know, if this hits, I don't know, level 16, you'll get, what is it, 1, 4, 8, 12, 16. It's like 5 different echo powers. And then maybe 6 if you hit 20, and then at 20 it's basically a Noble Phantasm. I'm not gonna kid anybody. It's basically just a Noble Phantasm at level 20, and you could go super off the rails with it. Maybe that's actually an idea, Michael. Is that the gods are no longer, like, god level, but they're, like, just powerful people in their planes or something. Yeah, but I want to do this as D&D because, I don't know, everybody knows D&D. I've played many role-playing settings, or role-playing systems, but this is D&D, so I'm trying to figure out how to conceptualize it within D&D. Because, like, part of this concept was actually based on a Savage Worlds campaign I wrote that I never got to play, where it was loosely based off of is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon? And so you gained powers tied to your god, basically. And by having a given god that was in charge of your group, your whole party gained like a base level ability. Yeah, that's another option, is they can gain more uses. My only thought about like doing the gain more uses versus gain additional ones is like, I feel like getting more stuff would be cool. I don't know, like that might be an idea. Like if you want a Blackbeard like Cannon Barrage as all of your echo powers, yeah, that could be fine. You focused entirely on the fact of making big guns go boom. That the powers tied to a god thing is related to a different setting. Just disregard that. That was just me talking on a tangent about another setting I wrote. Oh, yikes, Luna. I hope it wasn't my fault. And one more charge. I'm sorry, I'm typing this up. Of an existing. Okay, I think that's a pretty good idea. I think that's a good idea. Is you can either gain a new echo ability every 4 levels, or you can choose to increase the charges of one of your existing abilities by 1. I think that could be neat. You want to be the all, ship wave dashing person. Yes, keyboard ASMR. I know, I'm sorry. I type so damn loudly. Tired and hungry and cranky. I'm sorry, Luna. I hope you get plenty of noms and plenty of snoozes. So, okay. I think we're already making progress. So I think that's a good idea. Do it once every 4 levels, starting at level 1. 1, 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20 is your Noble Phantasm. When you're already casting Wish and Meteor Swarm and Time Stop, I feel like having a Noble Phantasm isn't that big a deal. Wave dashing confirmed, oh god. So, yeah. Showers will become illegal. But yeah, so I think that's a good starting point. And then, yeah, I think a lot of it is going to be, so where are you putting your given echo? For instance, if you chose, we'll say a dragon, you get the easy peasy echo potential abilities of like your person can bust out like a fucking like set of wings. And would you strengthen them as you level up? I feel like some of them, so it's one of my things, I don't know if you'd strengthen them or just gain new uses of them. Because honestly, you're not going to get that many additional echoes over the course of the campaign. So the echoes you're picking at the start of the game are pretty much the ones you will be having throughout. So there's not really a need to like power adjust them as you continue. I feel like you'll be designing them in accordance with what you want your character build to be from the get-go. So, like, if you're like a dragon person, you can always be like magically, say you're a wizard and you chose a dragon as your echo. Your wizard could bust out some straight like runically charged dragon wings and like sweep through people and like, I don't know, like burn them or something as you fly through them. I think that'd be a cool example of an echo power. Or, you could just get a breath weapon kind of thing. Or just normally have a single target spell become a cone represented by a breath weapon kind of thing. I think those could be like cool ideas of melding, because at the end of the day, I don't want to just take what an echo does and just give you that. I want it to be something intermixed with what your character is. So, like, if you're a fighter well, I'm just trying to like spitball here. So if you're a fighter and you choose like the adept as your Echo, who's like a famous assassin, maybe you get the ability to like become shadows and basically shadow jump somewhere, or you know, make your blade like pass through somebody's armor or resistances or something. I think those could be like cool ways of melding an existing Echo's personality into your own style of attacks. Or like maybe you basically get like, if you're say you're a wizard and you have a druid Hierophant as your Echo, you can make it so that like, say this druid was deeply was like a Circle of the Moon druid. So now you can gain like your wizard can basically start like shapeshifting their body to do various things, like for instance like reinforcing their skin to become as hard as dragon scales, or they could be coming to turn having like some tendrils of like plant life extend out and latch on to, or actually have like that mix with being your wizard stuff, and like you cast a fireball, but it's not just a fireball, it's now tendrils of flame burst out of the ground like vines and wrap themselves around people and maybe do some kind of like lingering damage or something. I think that'd be like an interesting way of combining the concepts. So that's the kind of thing I was thinking for Echoes, is the melding of the two and providing you supplementary abilities. So let me know if you have any thoughts on that, if you have any ideas for things that you think would be cool Echo abilities. Just spam Unrelenting Force. Easy game. Easy game. Let's knock people off cliffs. Alright, if nobody has any additional thoughts about the Echoes, I think we've already made a very interesting that. Yeah, let me know if you got any ideas. I'm just like spitballing stuff. It's one of those things, I want it to be very up to the player and how they can be mixed of. So, but yeah, as we do that, we can then move over to, I guess, words of creation. We can start talking about the words of creation. So, one of the problems I have with the words of creation concept is that it is the primary means for your character to basically get better gear over the course of the campaign. However, it is also dependent on how long you want the campaign to be. So, if you want like I'm trying to think of how long like a quote-unquote shorter version would be. Punch spells into people. That is a cool idea, to be honest. Okay, here we go. Lab coat cosplay. You're a monk Echo for somebody. You could give like a person. Oh, even better. Not your monk Echo. You're a monk whose Echo is a wizard. You can basically do catch arrows, except you catch spells and chuck them back at people. That'd be fucking cool. So, yeah, you're a monk who literally can basically avatar, catch a spell, and then redirect it back at somebody. Or be the wizard who's now, like, kick-punching people. With, you know, I'm just gonna fireball you in the face with my fist. But yeah, so for, Save brain cell. Yep, yep. So for the words of creation, let's say 4 words per person out of a 4-person party means you have to go through 16 planes of existence to collect them all. So 16 adventures, that's still pretty fucking long in my opinion. Catching a fireball, re-chucking it. I just feel like that could be a totally valid, like, high-level echo ability, is like catching lightning, catching a lightning bolt, catching a fireball, and instead of it detonating on you, you basically get to redirect it and detonate it somewhere else. I think that'd be pretty fucking cool. So... Also, like, having something, like, do a breath weapon at you and then catching it and redirecting that. Open up a bunch of... Be like Gilgamesh, open up a bunch of magic portals to absorb it and then reshoot it out. So, with 16 planes of existence, that is 16 quests. And I was talking to, like, Sif about it, and he wanted, like, a lot of planes, which, if there are a lot of planes, that means each individual quest would be shorter. Like, basically, probably many of them would be equivalent to, like, a one-shot to get a word of creation, which would also mean that the individual words of creation would likely be less powerful. Like, if you're doing Adventure Time logic, like, if you're getting, like, the Slime Princesses, word of creation, maybe it's not as strong as Hot Dog Princess's word of creation. So yeah, so that would be the case. Is like, as there gets more of them, I'd have to make them weaker because it'd be much easier to get them. So it's a lot of depending on how long. Yeah, anthology or clip show adventure, basically. Yeah, it's almost, I feel like it's a campaign that can't be super drawn out. Because if it's super drawn out, you lose the impact of the nature of existence collapsing around you. So we're going to say probably 16 to 20 planes is the ideal. So let me go words of creation, keystroke ASMR. So 16 to 20 in campaign, which means 4 to 5 per person. Sentences of creation. So yeah, 4 to 5 words per person, I think it's probably pretty good. And in that case, I could probably make each individual word, like, pretty powerful, because it's got to represent, like, a lot of stuff to your character. So I feel like if people had ideas for ways to represent, like, a word of creation, so if you collected the word for chaos from the plane of pandemonium. Yeah, I did say that, Luna. I said that at the beginning. So there are more planes than the planes you guys go to. The idea I was working with is that there are 2 other rival groups that are trying to do the same thing you are. And so each plane option you have to go to, basically you have 3 planes, and then whichever one you pick, the other 2 get taken by the other 2 groups. So that's how it works its way through all the planes of the universe by the end. So everybody has basically gone through, like, a total of like 60 planes by the time you reach the end of the campaign. But each individual group only did 16 to 20 of them. Elemental plate of breakfast? Yes. So getting the concept of war, getting the concept of love, getting the concept of community, for example. All of these could be words of creation that you gather, and it would be, how would you represent Ron Swanson? Thank you for the resub, Roxy. Thank you, my favorite little cyber yokai for 14 months running. You always can get a hug. I'm gonna give a hug to everybody for free because little Roxy wants a hug and I give my Roxies what they want. So get your hugging utensils ready, everyone, because I'm coming in deep. And a 3, and a 2, and a 4. There you go. A big Death Knight hug from me to you. And an extra special cuddle for Roxy. Yes, the final boss at the end of the campaign is the rival groups. So, with that being said for the concepts, love you too, Roxy. With that being said for the concepts and how they tie in, so the other ones are being taken. So like, say for example, like your first pick is, you have to choose between the word of creation for love, community, and like, I don't know, let's say the third one is law. So you have to pick which one of those your party is actually going to go after, knowing full well your rival organizations are taking the other ones. So that might be a hefty thing. Like, you go into this knowing like, hey, what if the concept of community is just gone from the universe by the end of this? Like, we didn't choose to do it, and so somebody else took it, or they just, you know, they used it in a, like, maybe in an opposite manner or something. I don't know. I'm just like tossing out ideas for like the cost-benefit analysis of it. So each time you do it, it should be like, it's a choice. It is a struggle between which one of these you actually want to try and utilize, because you know that the other ones will be lost. Oh man, you could be even spicier. Here's extra spicy Cydia. There are 4 options, and you know that you take one, the other 2 groups take the other 2, and the 4th one, that one's just lost forever. That could be really spicy. But I don't know, part of me wants it to be that at the end of the campaign, you can collect enough words to basically remake reality if you're so inclined. So, and if you fundamentally lose something, well, that kind of takes away from that. But that's like an idea. That's an idea to toy around with, which I actually might leave that up to the party. I might leave that up to the heroes and the players themselves. If they want to play hard mode, where they have to make the hard choices, where there might be things about existence that never return because they can't be everywhere and the universe is collapsing around them. That could be so Dark Souls-y spicy that I would kind of love to see the drama of that. Like, how do you, as like a good aligned person, live with yourself knowing that you chose 3 different, you know, civilizations, 3 different aspects of existence that you weren't going to go to, and one of those is just gone forever? And they always have to be comparable things. Like, I'm not going to put, like, you know, the concept of mosquitoes in the same pool as, like, the concept of love. So, that could be really interesting. Like, if you had to choose between some of these and knowing that one good thing or one, for example, bad thing would never return, that could be real interesting. Yeah, I think that would be the compromise, Alex, is that if people don't want to play hard mode, where there's always one that disappears, make it like one for every 4 quest options they do. There's one where it will disappear if the party doesn't go for it. So I think giving a 4-way choice, like once every 4 times, considering that will only happen 4 or 5 times over the course of the campaign, because there will only be 16 to 20 successful words of creation, I think that would still make it have like weight, still show it has the impact that the universe is ending, but not make it so, like, quite as bleak. I don't want people to be, like, totally suffering. So I'm gonna write that down. I'm actually gonna write that down. So 4 to 5 per person, 2 options, 1 being 3 choices, 1 is yours, and 2 go to other groups, with 1 every 4 choices being an aspect that is lost. Hey, Headboy! Welcome, welcome! I hope you enjoy my keystroke ASMR. We're writing down all kinds of spicy ideas. 2 being every choice involves 4 choices, of which 1 is perma-lost. 1 is perma-lost. This is hard mode. Okay, so I've jotted that note down. It is so grim, the mega grim dark. So you have the choice between being very bleak and grim or being less bleak and grim, depending on how much drama you want in your given campaign. But yeah, thank you. I think those are really good ideas. Yeah, get 16 to 20 total words of creation. Some of them are lost. Some of them you might get when you get to the end of the campaign, if you succeed and defeat the bad guys. But I also kind of like the option of maybe, just maybe, there being like a time limit during the final fight for collecting, somebody you've defeated's words of creation. Otherwise, they disappear. Because, like, say you kill somebody, there's no longer a mortal bound to those words of creation anymore, so they can fade as, like, each round that person is dead. I think that could be super cool, too. To put a further time pressure on the fight, so you can't just be like, we're squaring up with the 2 rival groups right now, and we're just gonna hash it out until we're the last man standing. You're like, no, we have to square it up with the rival groups, as well as I have to proactively retrieve the words from everyone I kill, otherwise they're just gone forever. That could be very tense. I like that idea. I'm stealing that idea for myself. Yeah, because I like that. That's good. That is so extra tension. Like, I'm a big fan of the Eberron rule of, like, anytime you're in a fight or in a situation, push it up to 11. Kick it up a notch in drama. So, like, you're fighting. Well, how about you're fighting on a train? How about you're fighting on a train that's about to be derailed? How about you're fighting on an airship? How about you're fighting on an airship as it's crashing to the ground? So the final fight between you and the rival groups is, yeah, you're fighting the rival groups for the fate of the universe, but also you have to make sure you preserve their words of creation when you kill them. Otherwise, they're gone forever. And same with your characters. You really gotta eat those words. Yep, you literally gotta eat those words. Because that would be a hell of a finale, is during the big fight, you retrieving the words, you losing words over the course of the fight. With that, while you're able to finally remake the universe, you have fundamentally lost things along the way that you just weren't able to retrieve even in your final moments. See, I don't feel like I need to do like a cheat code weapon. I feel like the idea is like you have to basically touch the word of creation Maybe just like it's a floating song note or something, like in Assassin's Creed Black Flag. It's like a floating song note when somebody dies, and you have to physically touch one as like an action in a turn to claim it. Because the idea is mortals can be able to harness them. So as long as they're available, a mortal can be able to collect it. So that's why there's 3 different groups who are able to collect it. Like, it doesn't really mean anything if each one of the groups has their specific, I can collect other people's Words of Creation weapon. Because at that point, I'm like, if everyone has it, it's no one has it. At that point, just make it so that everyone can collect them, rather than having a contrived weapon or item that makes it possible. That's just like my take on it. So I think that'd be cool. But if anybody had ideas for like, so you know that these people are only getting about 4 to 5 magic items in the campaign. How would you reflect a given Word of Creation's power, knowing full well they're only going to have 4 or 5 of them each? So I'd really appreciate ideas on that. Sorry, I was staring blankly into the void. I feel like there'd have to be a bit of... Obviously, a bit of it is subjected to what is the given Word of Creation and that character. Like, I think, for example, I'm gonna go with just, like, love as an idea. Say you bind love, to your shield. It's just the thing of, it's like there's really no shopping left in the universe because it's all ending, so nobody's really buying or selling anything. So these are very much like defining, because it's the idea is I don't want people to be like super focused on getting new gear and stuff, so I'd rather have each piece of gear idea be like something very encompassing. So you want the, you want like a shield of love. So you used your Word of Creation on a shield. And so by using the love aspect of it, it can give you, like, it gives you bonus AC when you're standing next to like an ally. When you're like, it could be like when you're standing next to an ally and it gets weaker the farther away from that ally you are. And so that could be a cool concept, is like, so it's literally, you know, the stronger you are to, or the closer you are to somebody, the stronger your bond becomes. And so the more armor your shield gives, but also it could be like shareable with the person that you're standing next to. As you do the D&D adventuring polycule, and everybody who's within 5 feet of you, you love, and you give them your bonus AC as well. Or like half of your bonus AC. I think that could be like a neat mechanic for it. And then maybe if you go through like the sword, or you attach the word for chaos to your sword, chaos. When you hit somebody with it, it might do something like, it'll give you a variable like plus to hit and damage maybe. And as well as might like impose some kind of debuff to the person. Go like full wild magic mode. That could be interesting. Or you attach like the word of, that's kind of the same mechanic. I was thinking about doing community for your armor, but I'm like, yeah, it would basically be the same thing. As love. So, or it could be law, and with like law attached to your weapon, for example, maybe it will always give a set bonus, which will also impose like a set minus to somebody. Like, you gain +5 to hit, you do, or +5 to hit and damage. The enemy you hit gets a -5 to hit and damage for their next attack or something, or their next round. Or it could be in balance, so you roll randomly for what your plus is, but also the enemy then gets imposed as an equal negative. So it's a little bit of chaos, but it's also ultimately a just and equal distribution. Yeah, you can bind the concept of death and basically gain some kind of getting advantage on checks, or you could use it to basically escape death and kind of get like the rogue reaction thing. You could be like, I'm going to ignore 1 attack per round, like as you know, I am not marked for death. Or you could mark somebody else for death, and maybe they get some kind of debuff, or you get a bonus to attack them or something. Or you could have something where it requires you to gain like the concept of fire, and you could say, I'm going to channel the concept of fire into my armor, for example, and that allows me to basically project a wall of fire or something around you as you move, or it can basically make it so you're like Endeavor in My Hero Academia, and you're just like wreathed in fire that is through like your whole being and gives you, you know, like immunity to fire damage and like half damage to, I don't know, cold attacks or something. So I think these are like things you can do with your words of creation. So I also think maybe just partially using like existing rare magic items, but like more them but extra, I think is probably the rule of thumb for it. All right. Because I feel like I'd want each like armor piece or each weapon, for example, to be like obviously a plus, to obviously give them some sort of plus to their defensive or offensive values. Stampede of bunnies! So that they can still like power scale appropriately with them. But I always want them to do like something else, something extra. That's why I like the chaos rolling for the plus, the shield of love giving you more bonuses the closer you are to your allies. Perhaps like community's armor allowing you to share the damage of an ally. So as like your reaction, you can make it so the ally takes half damage and then you take half damage from that attack. That could be cool. So I think like combining a lot of things might be like the recipe for it, for establishing like what is the basis for some of these ideas. And I feel with like doing 16 to 20 planes, like I could keep things pretty lofty in what each plane represents. So you won't necessarily have to go to the plane of breakfast or the plane of slime. You could go to the plane of law or justice or whatever. And, you know, the plane of all the cardinal elements, the plane of maybe the Fae. So the plane of summer, the plane of winter. I think you'd do stuff like that, because at the end of the day, it's what, 60 odd concepts of core concepts of reality I'd have to figure out. But that's like that's not that hard. That's like, I think that's a attainable idea of number of stuff to do is like 60. plains of plain, where only basic bitches go. The pumpkin spice plane. Okay. Find the concept of spring and gain the sunlight spell or grow flowers. Yeah, that could be an example of it. You could gain, by gaining the concept of summer and spring, you could basically start like auto healing, gaining like a regeneration factor, as you just are continually being infused with life or something. By channeling winter, you could, do the classic cold damage thing. It could be a cold aura around you. Or it could also be just decay. Entropy, I actually do think would be its own plane entity, getting entropy. So you could just make people decay around you. Make the earth itself begin to crumble as you walk, as the very ground around you, or you could harness it to be like a beam of literally entropy that just destroys and disintegrates and decays everything it contacts. I think those could be cool things. All right, I think we've done a pretty good job. I think we've done a pretty good job, like actually exploring this a bit more. I think I'll probably end early because I'm really hungry. I didn't have dinner. But I think 2 hours of discussion. I think we made some good progress. Giving additional concept of curiosity. That's kind of cool. Curiosity, invention, those kind of things. I think those could be neat. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this little like world building talk. You guys definitely helped me develop and explore some of the things I was working on, and I definitely think I've got like some nice concepts to work on going forward. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this this world building stream. I know I enjoyed doing it with you guys. If you haven't done so already, please give me a follow here on Twitch, give me a sub over on YouTube, give me a follow on Twitter, and you can join my Discord, the Eternal Citadel, and be a part of my incredible community. I want you to all know you're all beautiful, amazing, valid people, and I hope you enjoyed spending your night with me nearly as much as I enjoyed spending it with you. And never forget the most important part, which is that the world is better having you in it. Alright everybody, we are gonna stream on Friday, and I don't know what we're gonna stream quite yet. People want to do more D&D talk. I might do a read-along of Iron Kingdoms, because I kind of want to do one. I know a lot of people in the Iron Kingdoms community really liked my previous read-along I did for their books, so I might be doing one of those, and we can discuss all of the classes and mechanics and stuff that exist in that setting on stream, and I think that could be really fun. So I'll see you guys Friday night. And if you want to watch also any of my previous D&D discussion streams, the VODs are on my my YouTube. It's one of the playlists. You can go check it out. If you are a follower, please copy down the call to hugs. If you're a sub, please copy down the Knight's message. We're going to go raid some fellow D&Ders, where there are also some cutie pies that I really like. So we're going to go raid Roughworks, who is River is the DM. I know Valtria, who is a very adorable Angel Hell Knight, is currently playing in that. I was asked to join it, but I couldn't do it. It would be on Wednesdays, which is when I stream. So let's go send Roughworks some love, some rough love. And hope that their D&D stream is going to go super swell. I need to turn off those sweet beats. There we go. Alright everybody, have a great night and the sweetest of dreams. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!